So welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Soundbites with RokoM and Michele. And this week, we're going to talk about the power of connecting to values. And I'm going to kick us off with a quote, and then I want to share just some initial thoughts, and then we'll get into talking. So this quote is, knowing what you value and how much you value it is the fire that illuminates the dark. So that may seem pretty heavy, okay, but here's why it resonates me when I think about is I just finished, I belong to John Maxwell team, certified there. So I just finished the coaching module with Valerie Burton, the one that she did. And she talks about values, and she talks about values around supporting your goals. So if your goals are connected to your values, right, and there is that powerful connection there, you have motivation to achieve them. You're more likely to achieve those goals versus goals that are set up. And when you look at what your values are, your core values, there's literally no connection between them. And so this is the idea or the initial thinking around values. And I know we'll probably go other ways, but Roko, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so when you first brought this up, I was like, yes, I love this topic because we do so many assessments and reflections on what our values actually are, but rarely do we take that next step to say, how does it actually show up in my working environment as a leader, or, you know, just in what I do? And when you shared with me that there are times that they could be sabotaging us or helping us, towards whatever it is that we're doing. And I got this image of this one engagement that I had with a nurse leader. And she, when we were talking about her values, I was coaching her through, and she was stuck. And I said, so what are your core values? And she said, autonomy is one of my core values. And what we were talking about was adherence to standard work.
Okay.
And so we had this conversation about how does that autonomy get in your way of adhering to standard work. And, you know, she had this aha moment around, she felt like she was losing her creativity and her own thinking by doing the standard work. And so as we started to talk about that and then think about, okay, well, how can you flip it? How can you flip that story that you're telling yourself about autonomy and standard work to where you can adhere to it and still keep your autonomy, but still get to the standard work so that you don't have variation or you don't create risk by deviating from the standard work. And it was so powerful.
No, it's you talk about that. And the other thing that comes to mind is, and I'll give you the example of the leadership group that, you know, I was doing the activity. So I teach change management too. So ProSize Model, ADCAR. I think it's powerful, super intuitive tool. And so I use values around talking around desire, right? Because ADCAR is awareness. Do I have awareness for the change? You understand why it's needed. Desire, making the personal decision to step in and support it. K is for knowledge. I actually understand what's expected of me. I know what the impact is. I know what's going to be required of me, you know, in this post-change world. Ability is I can actually succeed in the post-change world, and reinforcement are I'm not going to go back to the way it was. So I share that in case you don't know the ADCAR model and people are like, what the frick is she talking about? So on the desire piece, an in-person activity, there were 70 leaders. I have them go through, do a values exercise. And so there's a sheet of paper with a bunch of values on it, and it's not all inclusive, and so they select their top 10, which by the way, takes more than a minute. Okay. Then you narrow that list down to 5, and then you narrow that list down to 3, which is not so easy to do because it's almost like picking a favorite child, right? And you can go to 1, but I haven't seen a purpose in that for this activity. And so the leaders in the room had identified and written an organizational change that they were themselves going through, right? Because the change journey is at an individual level. And the activity then is, to your point, Roko, is we said, okay, fine, now that you have your core values, you know the change that you're going through, which ones are supporting you in that change? And which ones are holding you back, right? Which ones are blocking you? And so I had a couple leaders share their experience. And so one of them said, the one that's supporting it is basically recognition, promotion in the organization, right? Because there was reorg stuff that was going on. I said, okay. And she said, the one that stands out that's holding me back is around the autonomy. And I looked at her and I said, okay. And I said, so what assumptions are you making about the changes that are coming? And she stared and looked at me and she goes, I am. And so the next question is, so what do you need to do or know to get certainty and clarity around that? Because to your point, Roko, until we can surface those potential disconnects and then get real clarity around what adjustments do you need to make, either in your thinking or what this change is going to be, so that that's not the thing. But I think that's where is the power of connecting to values is you unlock that full potential. And I think prior to that and having that awareness in those discussions, they're there, we have them. And if we don't talk about them, then we literally could be held back.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's, you know, what I love about this is on two parts, right? The individual having awareness to that they're stuck, right? That they're resisting some change and doing that self-reflection or doing it, you know, engaging with someone to help them ask those questions, you know, to help prompt their thinking. So there's that aspect of self-development. And then there's the leadership responsibilities to say, I'm noticing Michelle on my team is resisting. How might I have this conversation with her to better understand what values might not be helping her move through this change or adopt this change. So I love that there's the two pathways of self-development and then your role as a leader to your team to recognize when somebody, as opposed to just saying, you know, oh, Michelle's so difficult. You know, she never wants to adopt any changes, but really looking at Michele as a person and saying, Michelle's you know, she's so skilled, she's so knowledgeable, what's getting in her way? And this is one way of finding out what's getting in her way.
Yeah, no, that's such a powerful point, right? It's about us first. And I'm going to go back to the A3 thinking class we taught and the graphic of leadership at the Toyota. You know, our role as leaders is, you know, to develop ourselves, to develop our people to get results. It starts with us, but it doesn't end with us.
No.
Because it's like it's important to create awareness. So you've got clarity around you. What is it for your team? I heard so many times that people have commented around millennials, right? And I apologize, millennials, for that label again, because I know I've heard a lot of millennials who don't want to be called millennials. But there's an awareness around that the connection to values of the organization needs to be there, right? The organization you work for. And it's funny because until I started hearing people talk about that, and I apologize everybody around, this was several years ago, I never really paid attention to the values of the organization. I didn't. To me, they were words.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't connected to them. I
always
always
were wallpaper in some places that I've worked.
Oh, hands down. And so I think that's the other piece of it, right? Is as a population, we're becoming more educated around leadership and what we want and what matters. And so values that are wallpaper, to your point, don't serve a purpose.
No.
So how do we connect to those or make sure that what we're saying, we're actually doing? Because that can be a disconnect as far as the organization and leadership. They're not just words. They literally at our core and drive what we do and what we support.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you were saying that, what was coming to mind too was, you know, when you're recruiting for new employees, it's amiss to not ask the potential candidate, what are their core values, so that you can see if there's an alignment, or, ask, here are our core values. How does that resonate with you, with your core values, and have them speak to that? Because if you're hiring somebody for their skills, but yet they don't align with your core values, at some point you're setting them up to fail, because they will hit this roadblock of them not connecting with the organization's values. So
here's where my brain went just then. Here's where my brain went this, Jen, because I have a few leaders I coach that have been looking at new jobs. And the reminder for them is, you're preparing for this interview, but realize it's a two-way interview.
Yes.
And so when you were talking about values, I don't know that me personally would ask someone what their values were, but I think I would start off with a conversation around that here are the organization's values, and here's how those values show up. And because they need to.
Yeah.
If they don't, to your point, they're wallpaper. So yeah, it's a two-way interview. And so and it's about connections. So how do you connect with people, and values? There's so much more than the words on a piece of paper. So anyway, I appreciate this time, as always.
Well, thank you for coming up with this topic. It's such a powerful topic.
Yeah, no, it was, it just hit me when I was going through the coaching program, Valley Burton. And it's like, it's powerful because I never thought about the intentionality around connecting to your goals, and that could be the thing getting in the way. And there's so many other connections in other work that I do, but I hadn't thought about it that way. So what is something you want people to walk away with from this, the power of connecting the values?
Yeah, I think it's those two pathways, right? Understanding your own personal development, where your core values might be helping or hindering you through something. And then as a leader, how are you recognizing or engaging with your team around their core values, and what might be helping or hindering them from adopting some change?
Yes, and I think what I'll say is, I'm going to take us back to basics, is if you haven't done it, do it. And the do it is go through the values exercise. There's stuff online. Message me. I have a PDF of the values from John Maxwell team and another one from coaching. But go through the exercise of do your top 10 first, because it's going to be nearly impossible just to get to one. Okay. But do your top 10, then out of that, figure out your top 5 and then your top 3, and then do an assessment. What am I doing that's supporting my values? Where's the area in my life that I'm having struggles or challenges? And could it be because it's not in alignment and not connected to my values? But if you haven't done it, do it. It's eye-opening.
It is.
So this is Leadership Soundbites, the power of connecting to values with RokoM and Michele. Please like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.